Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. This will be the third video in my series entitled Finding Christ, and I'm going to look at the third beatitude from the Sermon on the Mount. The playlist for this entire series will be in the description bar below, as well as links to commentaries on this verse. So what is the character of meekness? I've heard it explained as power under control or self-control. Imagine, for example, that you were a king. Whether or not you're a meek king will be evident in how you used your power and how you view your position. Do you view your position as king as something you're entitled to, or something that it's your right to rule as king? Or do you view it more as a privilege and a responsibility? If the latter is true, you're more likely to rule as a meek king. Are you drunk with your own power? You're entitled as king to rule as you please, so to speak. Do you view your position that way, or do you view yourself as sort of a servant of the people? It's your job as king to protect the rights of the citizens. Again, the latter being an example of a meek king. But you don't necessarily have to be a king to be in a position of authority over others, nor do you have to be a king to demonstrate your meekness in how you approach those positions. And if you're a meek person, that's going to be reflected in any capacity in which you have authority and responsibilities. Could be at work, if you're in any type of management role, supervisor of some type. Be in your relationship with your spouse and your children. It could be in a position in the church in which you serve. Are you there to aggrandize yourself and use that power for your own ends, or are you there to faithfully carry out the duties of whatever position you're entrusted with? Again, the latter being the characteristics of a meek man. So I'm going to read from some commentaries on this verse. I'm not going to read the entire commentaries, but I will put a link below if you want to read those in their entirety. First commentary is Elcott's commentary for English readers. And he writes, as the character of one who has the passion of resentment under control, and who is tranquil and untroubled. The influence of the meek and self-controlled is in the long run greater than that of the impulsive and passionate. Their serenity helps them to find the maximum of true joy in all conditions of life. For to them, the earth is not a stage for self-assertion and the graspings of desire, but an inheritance which they have received from their Father. In some part, this goes to explain how the meek inherit the earth, because on some level that might seem counterintuitive. You might think the people that are quick to abuse their power are the ones that are going to take over the earth. What the commentator seems to be suggesting here is that meekness and self-control in the long run is greater than that of the impulsive and passionate. Moving on to the Benson commentary. Blessed or happy are the meek, persons of a mild, gentle, long-suffering, and forgiving disposition, who are slow to anger and averse from wrath, not easily provoked, and if at any time at all provoked, soon pacified, who never resent an injury nor return evil for evil, but make it their care to overcome evil with good, who by sweetness, affability, courteousness, and kindness of their disposition endure to reconcile such as may be offended, and to win them over to peace and love. Barnes notes on the Bible, the meek. Meekness is patience in the reception of injuries. It is neither meanness nor a surrender of our rights, nor cowardice, but it is the opposite of sudden anger, of malice, of long-harbored vengeance. Christ insisted on his right when he said, if I have done evil, bear witness of the evil, but if well, why smitest thou me? Paul asserted his rights when he said, they have beaten us openly uncondemned, being Romans, and have cast us into prison. And now do they thrust us out privily? Nay, verily, but let them come themselves and fetch us out. And yet Christ was the very model of meekness. It was one of his characteristics, I am meek. So of Paul, no man endured more wrong, or endured it more patiently than he. Yet the Savior and the Apostle were not passionate. They bore all patiently. They did not press their rights through thick and thin, or trample down the rights of others to secure their own. He goes on, meekness in the reception of injuries with the belief that God will vindicate us. Vengeance is his, he will repay, quoting Romans 12:19. It little becomes us to take his place and to do what he has promised to do. Meekness produces peace. It is proof of true greatness of soul. It comes from a heart too great to be moved by little insults. It looks upon those who offer them with pity. And again, that's from Barnes' Notes on the Bible. But I think the example of Christ gives us a great example of meekness. Here he was the Christ, the Son of God. But how did he conduct himself? He allowed himself to suffer at the hands of sinners because what was ordained for him. For example, just before he is arrested, tried in Jerusalem, he first prays that this cup that he's about to drink from, this humiliation that he's about to suffer, will not be so. But then he resigns himself to the will of God in praying, nonetheless, not my will, but thy will be done. So yes, as the Son of God, he's the heir of all things, yet submits himself to the will of his Father. When his disciples try to intercede and prevent him from being arrested, he commands them to stand down and then proclaims, think not that I could pray right now and have a legion of angels to defend me. But how then would the scriptures be fulfilled? So he allowed himself to suffer humiliation, to be humiliated, to be tortured, and then to be crucified. He even showed pity on those that were doing this to them, saying, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. And ultimately he trusted in God to vindicate him. Of course, in the biblical narrative, 3 days after being killed, he's risen from the dead, appears to many, and then ascends to his Father to reign over his kingdom. And in the long run, Christianity has long outlasted the Roman Empire of old. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. And given an understanding of meekness, wouldn't you want the meek to inherit the earth? I mean, would you rather live under a meek king that used power judiciously and was slow to trample the rights of others? Or would you want to live under a haughty king who was always full of himself and abusing his power?